I remember the night we found out our parents were gone. It wasn't just a phone call. It was like the world cracked open and swallowed us whole. One minute, we were waiting for them to come home from work. The next, a police officer was standing in our living room, hat in hand, eyes soft and pitiful. I didn't cry, not right away. My little brother, he clung to me, shaking. He kept asking when Mom was coming back. I didn't have the heart to tell him she never was. We were just alone. No warning, no plan. And when you're 13, what now? Isn't a question you're supposed to answer. But I had to. Someone had to. That's when the relatives showed up, people from my dad's side. I barely knew them. I remembered them from a few birthday parties and maybe a wedding. They said, "We'll take them in." Their family, and that was it. We were packed into their car within days. At first, I was grateful. They gave us a roof, meals, a room to share. But it didn't take long before that kindness turned into something else. The uncle? He kept his distance, but his wife. She made it very clear. We were not her kids. We were not wanted. She smiled in front of others. She said the right things. But at home, she found every way to remind us we were a burden. I learned to keep my head down, to keep my brother out of trouble, to say thank you even when my stomach hurt from skipping dinner. And I told myself, just hold on until you're 18. Then you can get out. Then you can breathe again. We shared a small room, my brother and I. 2 twin beds, a single window, and walls thin enough to hear the whispers about us. I tried to protect him from it, tried to make it feel like we were still a team, like we had each other. But even at 10, he could feel it. The tension, the rejection, the guilt for just existing. They never let us forget it. We didn't have to take you in. You should be grateful. Other kids end up in group homes. And every time she said it, it dug a little deeper. So I learned how to disappear. I stayed late at school. I joined every club I could. Anything to be out of that house, to feel like I belonged somewhere, anywhere else. But the truth is, when you live like that long enough, you start to believe them. You start to believe maybe you really do owe them your life. Maybe you're not worth much without them. Maybe they're right. But even in the worst moments, when I cried into my pillow and prayed to a God I wasn't sure existed, there was a voice in me that whispered, "Hold on, just a little longer. You're gonna get out. You're gonna make it." And that voice saved me. I turned 18 on a Thursday. It rained that morning, the kind of soft, gray rain that makes you want to stay in bed. But I couldn't. I had school, and more importantly, I had survived. 18. Legal. Technically free. No one in the house remembered it was my birthday. Not the uncle, not his wife. Not even a text. Not even a cold slice of cake. I sat at the kitchen table, eating dry toast, while she paced around, barking orders to her own son, my cousin. "Don't forget your jacket! Did you finish your project?" She never looked at me. I didn't expect her to. But I couldn't help thinking, this is it. This is the last morning I have to pretend to be invisible in this house. After school, I didn't go home right away. I took the long way, walked through the park, stopped at the library, sat on the steps of a church I'd never even been inside, and just stared at the sky. I wasn't religious, but something about that old building felt steady, safe. And that's when it hit me. I had no plan. I was 18, yes. But where would I go? I had no savings, no job, no family I could run to. And staying in that house, where I was barely tolerated, wasn't really a choice anymore. That night, lying in bed beside my sleeping brother, I stared at the ceiling and whispered, "I have to get out. Even if it kills me, I have to get out." The next day at school, I asked our guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, if she had a minute. She was in her 50s, wore too much perfume, and always had lipstick on her teeth, but she listened. She really listened. That made her different. I told her, quietly, that I was 18 now and didn't think I could stay where I was much longer. She nodded slowly, And then she said the words that changed everything. Have you ever looked into transitional housing? You're a ward of the state, technically. You might qualify for a support program, housing assistance, even college grants. My stomach flipped. Housing? Like my own place. A door I could close and lock. Walls I didn't have to tiptoe around. I shook my head. I'd never heard of it. She printed some forms, gave me a highlighter, said, "It's a lot of paperwork. You'll need your documents, ID, proof of status, but it's possible. It's yours to fight for now." That weekend, I stole hours in the school library, researching everything: programs for youth aging out of foster care, subsidized apartments, rental assistance for orphans. I made lists. I built folders. I called government offices and sat on hold for hours. At night, I hid the forms under my mattress. I couldn't risk her finding out, not yet. Something in my gut told me, don't speak too soon, don't show your hand. The next few weeks were a blur. Classes, forms, deadlines, caseworkers, social workers, appointments, a million questions. Where did you live before? Who claimed you as dependent? Do you have proof your parents are deceased? Can you provide a birth certificate? Do you have an emergency contact? I didn't. Not really. I was my own emergency contact now. But there was this one moment. I'll never forget it. I was in a tiny gray office, across from a tired woman who looked like she'd seen everything. She scanned my paperwork, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You're one of the quiet ones, huh? The ones who don't scream or cry. The ones who just survive." I nodded. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You'll get your place. People like you, they always find a way." I walked out of that office feeling taller, like maybe I was someone who could survive this. The approval letter came on a Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't even expecting it yet. The woman from the office told me it could take weeks, maybe even months. But there it was, folded neatly in a plain white envelope. My name was on it. My full name. And underneath that, the words, "You have been approved for transitional housing, effective May 1st. I stared at it like it might vanish if I blinked too hard. I read it once, twice, 3 times, and then I just broke. I dropped to my knees right there in the school hallway, clutching that paper like it was a golden ticket to another world. Because it was. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was moving forward. Outside free. That evening, I went to the park, the same bench I always sat on when I needed to breathe. I took the letter out again, smoothed it on my lap, and whispered, "I did it. I really did it." And you know what the craziest part was? I didn't even tell my brother yet, not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid. Afraid if I said it out loud, it would somehow vanish. Afraid someone would take it from me. Afraid that if they found out, she would twist it, claim it, poison it. So for a week, I kept it to myself. I kept going to school, doing homework, pretending everything was normal. Inside, I was on fire. The place they offered me wasn't fancy. A small studio unit in a government-sponsored transitional complex. One window, a tiny kitchenette, a twin bed. But it was mine. Mine! I visited it a few days before move-in. The manager was a kind older woman with short gray hair and thick glasses. She walked me through it like I was someone who deserved to live there. She handed me the keys and said, "You're starting a new chapter, sweetheart. Make it count." I held those keys like they were the heaviest things I'd ever carried. The move wasn't dramatic. I didn't tell the family I was leaving until the night before. We were sitting at the dinner table, and my brother had just finished talking about a science project. I cleared my throat and said quietly, "I got approved for housing. I'll be moving out next week." The fork in her hand clinked against the plate. My uncle looked up like he hadn't really been listening until that moment. My cousin just kept eating. There was silence. Thick, uncomfortable, electric. And then she said, "Wow! You really couldn't wait to run away, could you?" I didn't answer. I knew better. She added, "After everything we did for you, you just pack up and leave." And there it was. The guilt trip. The hook. My uncle sighed. He looked tired, maybe even a little relieved. Well, if that's what you want, you're 18 now. He didn't say, congratulations. Didn't ask where I'd be living. Didn't ask if I needed help. I wasn't surprised. The day I left, I packed my things in 2 trash bags. One for clothes, one for books and school stuff. My brother helped me carry them to the bus stop. He was quiet, watching me like I might disappear if he blinked. I hugged him tighter than I ever had before and whispered, "This isn't goodbye. I'm going to make a place for us." "Okay?" He nodded, but I saw the tear he wiped away when he turned. That first night in my new place, I didn't sleep, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe it. I kept turning the lights on and off, opening the fridge just to hear the hum, standing by the window just to feel the stillness. I sat on the floor and cried. Big, messy, relieved tears. I had a door. I had silence. I had space that didn't hate me. And I promised myself something. No one is ever taking this from me. Not ever. But of course, that's when things started to shift. Because when people like them see you doing better, they don't clap. They calculate. It started small, like all dangerous things do. A text from my uncle. "Hey, your aunt wants to talk to you. Can you come by this weekend?" I hadn't been back to that house in over a month. Not since I moved out. But something in me, that old, obedient, guilt-ridden part, said okay. So I went. They acted warm at first. My aunt even smiled when she opened the door. That fake, rehearsed kind of smile. Like she was auditioning for a part in a play called Loving Family Matriarch. She offered me tea, sat me down at the table, asked about school, my classes, how the new place was. It felt wrong, like being hugged by someone who once tried to drown you. And then, just like that, the tone shifted. She folded her hands, leaned forward and said, "So, we've been thinking, that apartment you got?" I froze. She kept going. "It's really nice, a good space, and you wouldn't even have it if we hadn't taken you in all these years. Right?" That old guilt clawed its way back up my spine. "I mean," she said, her voice still sweet, "we fed you, housed you. You were just a kid. And it wasn't easy. We made sacrifices, a lot of them." She looked at my uncle. He nodded solemnly, like they were at a funeral. "So here's what we were thinking," she said. "Maybe it makes more sense for your cousin to use that place. Or maybe your brother. He's still here, after all. It'd be easier on us if he had somewhere to go, too." My mouth went dry. I said, "That apartment, it's in my name. It's for me. I'm the one who applied, who waited, who qualified." Her smile tightened. "Yes, but don't forget who raised you, who kept a roof over your head when no one else wanted you." That part, when no one else wanted you, it landed like a slap. I stood up. My hands were shaking. "I appreciate what you did. I do. But that apartment is mine, and I'm not giving it up." Her eyes narrowed, sharp and cold. "After everything we did, this is how you thank us?" My uncle didn't say a word, just looked away. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I found out they'd called my caseworker. They told her I was unstable, that I'd abandoned my younger brother, that I didn't deserve housing, and was planning to let strangers live there. I had to sit in that office again, this time defending myself, explaining, clarifying, begging them not to revoke my place. Thankfully, my caseworker believed me. She said, "You'd be shocked how often this happens. The second someone gets help, the people who hurt them want a piece of it." I nodded. But inside, I was crumbling. Because they weren't done. They started showing up. Once, I came home and found my aunt sitting on the steps outside the building. "You can't just erase us," she said. "We're your family." Another time, she brought my brother with her. He looked confused, sad, caught in the middle. "Why don't you just let him stay with you?" she asked. "It's a studio," I said. There's barely enough space for me. He's your brother, she snapped. We raised both of you. The least you could do is give back. And there it was again, the trap, the guilt, the twisting of every good thing into something shameful. But here's the truth they never understood. I did want to help my brother. I did want him out of that house. I just couldn't save him while I was still drowning myself. So I made a plan. I started working part-time after school, saving, calling youth support programs to get my brother his own case, looking into shared housing options for siblings. I was building something, slowly, carefully, that could hold both of us. But I had to protect the foundation first, because if I let them take it now, there'd be nothing left for either of us. And one night, after weeks of silence, my aunt left a voicemail. Just her voice. Tired. Bitter. Final. You're not who we thought you were. We gave you everything, and now you think you're better than us. Keep your little apartment. One day, you'll regret this. But here's the thing. I've never regretted it. Not once. Not even when the loneliness crept in. Not even when the fridge was empty. Not even when I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I was selfish, or cruel, or broken. Because for the first time in my life, the space I was in belonged to me. And it wasn't full of hate. It was full of possibility. I used to think courage was loud, that it looked like fists pounding on tables, or angry speeches, or storming out of rooms. But I learned something different. Courage, I found, was quiet. It was waking up the morning after you've been emotionally blackmailed and still choosing to show up, still choosing to build. That's what I did. I got up every day at 6 a.m., took the bus to school, worked evenings at a coffee shop near the campus, came home to my little studio, tired and sore, but safe. And in that silence, I healed. It didn't happen all at once. There were still nights I cried, still moments I second-guessed myself. But there was also this growing feeling in my chest, a kind of quiet pride, a whisper that said, "You made it, and you're still making it." My brother called me more often now. At first, it was just to chat. "Hey, what did you have for dinner? Did you watch that dumb show we used to laugh at? Remember that cat that used to scream outside your window?" I'd laugh. I'd tell him stories from work, from school, from my tiny, sacred corner of the world. And then, one night, he said something that froze my heart. "She says I have to sleep on the floor now." "What? Why?" "She said since I'm getting older, I don't need a room anymore, that I should be grateful I'm even there." I could hear it in his voice, that same hurt, confused tone I used to have, that mixture of shame and trying to act like it didn't matter. I hung up that night with a knot in my stomach, and the next day, I made a decision. I called every number I had saved from my casework folder. Every youth program, transitional housing organization, teen advocacy office. I asked questions I didn't even know how to ask the year before. I said, "I'm 18, but my brother is still with relatives who don't treat him right. He's 10. Is there a way to help him?" I kept hearing no, or he'd need a different advocate, or you can't apply on his behalf. But I didn't stop. Eventually, a woman from one of the shelters gave me a lead. "There's a program for sibling reunification. It's rare, but it exists. You'll need to prove emotional harm, not just neglect. Start documenting every call, every visit." So I did. I bought a notebook just for that, wrote down every time he called me crying, every message she sent, every little injustice they tried to disguise as parenting. They didn't stop. The family, I mean. My aunt called again one Sunday morning, acting like nothing had happened. "So, you still living in that little shoebox?" I ignored her tone. "I'm doing okay," I said. "You could be doing better if you stopped being so stubborn. Imagine what we could do with that apartment. You think the government cares about you? They'll take it the second you mess up." I took a breath. Long. Deep. "I'm not giving it up," I said, "and I'm not coming back." That's when her voice changed. She didn't even yell, she just went cold. You're going to regret this. When you end up alone, when no one wants to help you, you'll think about the people you turned your back on. Click. But I didn't feel alone, not anymore. Because I had something stronger than guilt. I had clarity. They didn't raise us out of love. They kept us out of obligation, and they resented us every step of the way. And I wasn't going to let my brother rot in that same bitterness. By month 3 in my apartment, I had filled 2 notebooks of documentation. I had connected with a youth counselor who agreed to meet with my brother weekly. Slowly, piece by piece, I was building a case. Not in a courtroom, but in the court of possibility. In the court of this child deserves better. And then it happened. My brother was approved for a temporary placement through a sibling housing extension program. It wasn't perfect. We didn't get to live together, not yet. But he'd be moved to a youth home nearby, with weekend access to me, and full support from a mentor. The day I told him, he cried. Real, relieved tears. So I don't have to stay there anymore? No, I said, my voice shaking. You're getting out. Can I come visit you? Every weekend. And when I get a better place, something bigger, we'll figure it out. We're building this together. And that was the moment I realized. This wasn't just a chapter in my story. It was the beginning of ours. Sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night expecting to hear her voice. My aunt, saying something sharp or fake sweet or just cold. But all I hear now is quiet. Peaceful quiet. The kind you don't realize you've been craving until you finally taste it. It's been years since all of that happened. Years since I stood up and said, no more. And yet, sometimes it still feels close, like it just happened yesterday. Like I'm still that 18-year-old girl with shaking hands and a piece of paper that says approved for housing. But I'm not. I've grown. After my brother was moved into the youth home, things weren't perfect. He had a hard time adjusting, missed school a few days, pushed back against the counselors. I expected that, because I'd done it too. But I showed up, every weekend. We walked the park, played video games, ate junk food on my floor. Sometimes we didn't talk much. Sometimes we just sat. But every week, he got a little lighter, a little more like himself. A year later, I applied for a 2-bedroom low-income unit. It took months. Paperwork, meetings, verifications. But we got in. I remember the first night we moved. The walls were bare. The fridge was half empty, but we had a couch someone donated, 2 mattresses, a set of mismatched dishes, and it was ours, our space. No one yelling, no one manipulating, no one holding survival over our heads like a leash. I went back to school part-time, studied psychology. I wanted to understand how people become who they are, how trauma works, how healing happens. Eventually, I started working with teens. Kids like us. Kids who'd been told they were too much, too broken, too hard to deal with. I told them what I once needed to hear. You are not hard to love. You just haven't been loved right yet. As for my brother, he's doing great. He's 19 now, graduated last spring. Taller than me somehow, wants to work in tech. Maybe design video games. He still calls me sis, like he's 10 sometimes. And I still cry a little when he hugs me before leaving for class. Because I remember that boy on the phone, whispering, I sleep on the floor now. And I'm proud we built something better. We never went back to the family house, never visited on holidays, never sent cards. They faded out, like a radio signal that stops reaching your new location. And honestly, I don't miss them. Not the way people expect me to. Because I stopped grieving the fantasy of family a long time ago and started celebrating the reality we created. So, if you're listening to this, and you're in that place right now, that place where you feel like the floor is slipping from under you, like everyone who should have protected you is turning into the ones you have to protect yourself from, please hear me. You're not alone. You are not ungrateful for wanting peace. You are not selfish for wanting safety. You are not wrong for choosing you. They tried to take everything from me, even the roof over my head. But what they didn't realize is that the girl they underestimated, She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was rising, and she wasn't going back.